Piensa por ti mismo. Wake up.
Entertainment is so goddamn entertaining. Imagine this show were running on American TV, and I were sitting in this hotel watching it. Okay, we've got this pointy-headed, nerdy guy talking about this stuff, or I've got, Pamela Anderson running on a beach, or a hilarious comedy. Which one am I going to watch? A couple of people, not close friends, but people I knew who were my age had committed suicide. It just became obvious that something was going on. In the US, particularly younger people, things are often materially very comfortable. There's also often a great sadness and emptiness. There's a particular ethos in US culture, especially in entertainment and marketing culture, that very much appeals to people as individuals, that you don't have to be devoted or subservient to anything else. There is no larger good than your own good and your own happiness. You are the most important, and what you want is the most important, and that your job in life is to gratify your own desires. It's certainly the ideology that's perpetrated by television and advertising and entertainment. The economy thrives on it. When I'm a corporation appealing to the parts of you that are selfish and self-centered and want to have fun all the time is the best way to sell you things, right? And we see it with children. That's not happiness. That feeling of having to obey every impulse and gratify every desire seems to me to be a strange kind of slavery. American economic and cultural systems that work very well in terms of selling people products and keeping the economy thriving do not work as well when it comes to educating children or helping us help each other know how to live and to be happy. At least for me, it seems as if there are whole other parts of me that don't get nourished in that system. One of the things it causes is tension and unhappiness in people. The paradox is that sort of tension and complication and conflict in people also makes them very easy to market to. Because I can say to you, feeling uneasy? Life feels empty? Here's something you can buy or something you can go do. It makes us, the economics term is inelasticity of demand. I demand all the time, no matter what the price of it is. It works really well in an economic way. The idea that America is one great big shopping mall and that all anyone wants to do is, grasp their credit card and run out and buy stuff is a stereotype and it's a generalization. But as a way to summarize a certain kind of ethos in the US, it's pretty accurate. We can choose to an extent what we worship, but the myth that we worship nothing and give ourselves away to nothing simply sets us up to give ourselves away to something different. For instance, pleasure or drugs, or the idea of having a lot of money and being able to buy nice stuff. And part of the allure of both drugs and entertainment is escape from my problems and my life. It's a pretty natural extension of corporate capitalist logic, which is, I want to feel exactly the way I want to feel, which is good, for exactly this long. And so I will exchange a certain amount of cash for this substance, and I will do it. But it's all of course, a lie, because the control gradually goes away, and it stops being that I want to do it and becomes that I feel I need to do it. And that shift from I want something to I feel I need it is a big one. Most of the problems in my life have to do with my confusing what I want and what I need. Particularly now in computer and internet culture, everything is so fast. And the faster things go, the more we feed that part of ourselves, but don't feed the part of ourselves that likes quiet. That can live in quiet, that can live without any kind of stimulation. Here in the US, every year the culture gets more and more hostile. And I don't mean hostile like angry. It becomes more and more difficult to ask people to read or to look at a piece of art for an hour or to listen to a piece of music that's complicated and that takes work to understand. Reading requires sitting alone by yourself in a quiet room. And I have friends, intelligent friends, who don't like to read because it's not just bored. There's an almost dread that comes up about having to be alone and it having to be quiet. When you walk into most public spaces in America, it isn't quiet anymore. They pipe music through. And the music's easy to make fun of because it's usually really horrible music, but it seems significant that we don't want things to be quiet ever anymore. When you feel like the purpose of your life is to gratify, yourself and get things for yourself and go all the time, there's this other part of you that is almost hungry for silence and quiet and thinking really hard about the same thing for maybe half an hour instead of 30 seconds that doesn't get fed at all. It makes itself felt in the body in a kind of dread. Who would say entertainment is bad? But a model of life in which I have a right to be entertained all the time seems to me not to be a promising one. In America, we think of rebellion as this very sexy thing and that it involves, action and force and looks good. And my guess is the forms of rebellion that will end up changing anything meaningfully here will be very quiet and very individual and probably not all that interesting to look at from the outside. I'm now hoping for less interesting rather than more interesting. Violence is interesting and horrible corruption and scandals and rattling sabers and talking about war and demonizing a billion people of a different faith in the world. Those are all interesting. Sitting in a chair and really thinking about what this means and why the fact that what I drive might have something to do with how people in other parts of the world feel about me isn't interesting to anybody else.
Despierta. Wake up.